So we're talking about the business of liquefied natural gas now, and we're looking at some of the issues in Nigeria's gas industry. I'm being joined by Babs Omotowa. He's the Managing Director, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas. Good morning to you, and thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
So it's been very interesting times in the gas industry. Just take us through some of those issues that have come up, and how is it that do you feel that they're being resolved appropriately?
I think the issues around the gas industry is, of course, predominantly dominated by what happens in the upstream. The upstream companies, of course, are the ones who explore, produce, and transport gas. And I think the issues have dominated that space have been the issues around the regulatory uncertainties with PIB. It has been the issues around funding, because the industry has been underfunded for more than 7 years now. Is the issues around long contract approval processes, 2 years, 3 years in Nigeria. Is the issues around security, where pipelines get blown up, and is the issues around infrastructure. I think in all fairness, with the current administration, since President Buhari has been on seat and the Minister for State for Petroleum, a lot of effort have gone into trying to address this issue. Just for example, in terms of funding, recently the Minister of State did send the proposals to the upstream companies, the IOCs, to try and resolve some of the old outstanding funding gaps. Okay, it's a start. It may not be the final output, but I think we are seeing positive progress from the government trying to create a much better business environment. To create
a better business environment, I remember that there was a gas master plan. Where is it at now? What's the status?
I think there are very different aspects of that gas master plan. So, of course, you had aspects that had to do with gas pricing, appropriate pricing, and I think that has gone very, very well. The prices have now moved up significantly. You have aspects that had to do with trying to have domestic gas obligations for upstream companies. I think we've seen progress, because I think we're producing a lot more gas to domestic now than we used to produce before. There are aspects to do about increasing the export activities, so Brass LNG, OK LNG Train 7. I think we're a bit slow on that aspect. There have also been aspects to do with building petrochemical plants. Again, we haven't made much progress in that front. So I think in totality, when you look at the gas master plan, I think in many areas there has been progress, and in some areas I think we're still behind. But it's not to be unexpected. It's not a plan that was to be completed in a year. But I think we're on the right track, and I think with this current administration, the President, the Minister for State for Petroleum, we're really seeing much effort in the right direction.
Comment on this, if you will. There's been, talks that the pricing for gas doesn't really favor you when you have to supply domestically, and so rather you'll export it.
I think that's not correct. I think the reality is that the pricing today for domestic is of in my opinion, it's in the right levels. Because if you think about it, in the U.S., where they have shale gas, the price of domestic gas in the U.S. today is less than the price of domestic gas in Nigeria. So our problem, I don't think, is the price. The problem is that this industry is faced with expenses and costs that are just simply uncompetitive. So when you think about what we have to spend on security in the industry, when you think about what we have to spend on community development, when you think about what we have to spend with regulatory government agencies trying to impose so much taxes and fees on us, it just raises the cost up. And once these prices are raised up by all these input costs, then the price has to be high. So I don't think the price is too low, because at the end of the day, you have to think about the market. Can the market bear it? Can the populace who have to pay for...
They're not saying that the price is too low. They're saying that it's too steep, in fact, so that they're not able to buy into it, and it's easier for you to export it because you get more money.
Yeah, no, like I said, if you look at the upstream companies, they are willing to invest in domestic if the conditions are right. And what we have to work on as a country is to make our environment more conducive. It's easy to produce gas in the U.S. much lower than Nigeria. Why? And as I've said, there are issues in Nigeria about security costs. If you understand that the security costs for oil and gas companies in Nigeria today is more than 30% sometimes of their costs. By the time you add that to community costs and you add that to regulatory costs, if you look at the costs we get charged by, for example, the Ports Authority in Nigeria, it's 5 times what it is in other parts of the world. So these are the things we need to work on to reduce, so that we can then make the price even much lower for people in Nigeria.
So talk to us a little bit about how you're facing up to this challenge of oil production and, in some cases, price variance. Is it affecting gas prices?
Indeed, for LNG, for example, we have our contracts, although signed for 25 years, but they are linked to the oil price. You must remember that both oil and gas are used for similar purposes. They are used to generate energy. So if your price for gas is too high, then people will move into oil. So the oil price has a huge impact on the gas price. 70% of our price is linked to Brent. So if the Brent goes down, gas prices go down. And just to give you an example, we used to sell to Asia. About 2 years ago, we were able to get up to $15 per MMBTU. Today, we hardly get $5. So that's like a, two-thirds reduction in the price of gas in Asia. It's not as steep in Europe. In Europe, we used to be able to get about $9 per unit of gas. Today, we get about $5. So again, close to half reduction. So we've suffered the same impact as the oil side have suffered, because we are linked as same energy sources. So
that means we have a lot of gas in our reserves.
Oh, Nigeria is in the top 10 gas reserves in the world. There is no doubt that most energy experts will tell you that Nigeria is actually more a gas province. I think we still have over 200 years of gas available in Nigeria. Remember, we have 180 TCF of gas today. Most of that were found by accident. We were looking for oil, we suddenly saw gas. We haven't really gone out aggressively to look for gas. And that's one of the areas we need to focus on as a country. How do we incentivize to bring the investments that are required to build this infrastructure? Just to give you an idea of the cost we are talking about, if I want to build a Train 7 today, it will cost us about $10 billion to build that facility. But it will also require about $15 billion in the upstream companies to invest in gas fields to build that. $25 billion is not a simple, small amount of money that the government can bring out. So you need investors, you need foreign investors, local investors to come up with this sort of investment. And that's why as a country we need to spend more time thinking about how we can bring in investments to grow the gas industry, because gas really is the future. Oil was our past. Gas can give us not only liquefied gas, not only domestic power, but petrochemicals, which gives you a lot of manufacturing capabilities. And these are the kind of things we really need to pay attention to, spend more of our time trying to build these opportunities, rather than, I think today in the country, we find so many people are trying to even destroy the ones that are in place today.
But then before you can begin to encourage people to come in to invest, you must have an enabling policy that will encourage them to know that, look, your business is safe and it's a win-win situation for both parties. So do we have very good policies to encourage domestic and international investors to play very heavily in the gas market?
I think the first thing I would say is that, when you look at the priorities that the federal government have recently set out, President Buhari has said in his priorities are to reflate the economy through attracting investment. So the government, I think, is very keen. The president went to China, went to the US, went to United Arab Emirates, has gone all over the world to try and bring that sort of investments into Nigeria. But when you still look, we're still rated number 180 in terms of ease of doing business in Nigeria. We are not yet that environment that we really wish to be.
Actually.
169 maybe today. But, we still have quite a lot of things to do to make our environment quite robust. So, for example, we need to create stable regulators. We need to create attractive investments, incentives for people to bring their money. Because remember, Nigeria is not the only country that's looking for investments. All over the world, everybody's looking for investment. So if our environment is not conducive, they move their money elsewhere, which is why in the last few years we saw Mozambique, Angola, other African countries becoming destination for investments, even much more than Nigeria. So our legislators have to look at the kind of laws we put in place. Government has to look at incentives to give to companies to come to Nigeria. Tax holidays, you need to have that. You need to protect them against frivolities, because everybody will like to jump on any successful company in the country. You have to protect them against that. And you need to make sure that regulators are supportive of the activities of companies that come into Nigeria. So we still have a lot of work to do. The only thing I will say for now is that the current administration is a breath of fresh air. They have been working hard. The president, the ministers are really making the right efforts, but we still have a long way to go.
We have 6 NLNG trains. And I've had conversations with you before now talking about a 7th train coming on stream. What's the status?
Indeed, the Train 7 of Nigeria LNG, which should give us 40% additional capacity, is still in what we call the pre-FID stage. Pre-FID means we still have to do some work. We're in what we call the basis for design right now. We'll then move on to the front-end engineering work, and then we do the EPCs before we actually get to an FID. But this is a huge opportunity for Nigeria, $10 billion in terms of investments that will come into the country. Government doesn't have to put in a dollar. $15 billion in the upstream. Government, again, will have to see how to fund that. So huge investments will come to Nigeria. In terms of job creation, this is at least about 30,000 jobs between the NLNG and the upstream companies that will be created over a 5-year period. So huge opportunities for the country. We are working hard at this. We are very determined to make sure we can do this. We want to do it in this administration. So our target is to be able to take an FID in this administration. It's not made easy by the fact that the oil price and the price for gas is low now. So the kind of cost we are talking about, it cannot fly with such low prices. But we're optimistic that the prices will go up, and we're also working to bring down the cost of these projects. But I think it will really be one of the things that will help reflect the economy, bring in foreign investments, create jobs, and bring revenue for the government.
How much revenue are we looking at?
We think that you should be getting an additional $3 billion from this project per year when we finally get it running. So this is quite a significant, it's a 40% uplift in what we do. So if you think about what we did, for example, last year we paid over $2 billion as taxes to the FIRS. We paid over $1 billion in dividend. We paid more than $1 billion to the gas purchases we bought from Nigeria. So, about $4 billion is what we sort of give to the government in that year, 40% of that. So you're looking at $1.6, $1.7 billion as additional revenues that will come to the government. Remember, the government doesn't have to spend a kobo to achieve this.
But therefore, how long do we have to wait for that to come on stream and for the government to begin to see the revenue coming into its coffers?
I think
what's the
timeline?
Is a
great question. We should have had this many years back. In 2008, the company was ready to move forward with that decision. But unfortunately, circumstances around that time never allowed us to do. But I'm pleased that with this current administration, again, the president very keenly committed. When we visited him, he said, look, I really want you to move forward with this project. He was very, very clear. The Minister for State has been very, very supportive. So we now have all the support that was not there in the last few years. And so we're moving forward. That's why I say we're very keen now to get this done during this administration, because again, in Nigeria, as you move from one administration to the other, things sometimes change. So we're very keen to do it in this administration.